I have not seen your copies yet, but have you tried to attempt the Python questions? Question number 2. Any problems you faced or any questions, any queries you have?
Ma'am, the sin x function problem, that one I could not complete because
Yes,
of
ma'am, that
Okay.
one.
time.
Okay. Okay. So let us just talk about both the problems. Okay. So I understood that the series solutions, we have not done any problems in the class, but I have mentioned those problems several times, and I hope that you will be able to handle that. So let us just today talk about these series problems, how to solve them, and also the other problem as well. So I will not give you the entire code, because I will urge that now after these many lectures, I guess you are now able to write your own codes. I'll just guide you through the steps that we need to do for writing the program. So about the test questions, let us talk about the sine series problem. So the sine series, I thought I should give the series in the question paper first, but I guess you remember that, so I did not. But this is the series, right? So sine of any angle should be figured out by this series, x minus x cubed by 3 factorial plus minus alternatively, and you have these odd powers sitting on top and odd factorial sitting down, right? It's an infinite series. So in any such problem like exponential, sine, cosine, the thing that we need to understand or figure out is that how can I get the second term from the first term, okay? And then I have to find a common logic of how, using the same logic, I can get the third term from the second term. And recursively like this, I am going to gain one term at each step, and I am going to add them in my series summation. So let us see here, in case of sine, the first term is x. So what I will do is I will start with x, whatever the angle that I have, whose sine I need to figure out, I will start with that x value. Okay, I will store that into a variable x, and I will start with that. In the next term, I will see that how can I get the next term from this. So the next term is minus x cubed by 3 factorial. Okay, so if I take x out of it, what is left? Minus x square by 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, so 1, let us just assume that here x by 1 or something like that I had to begin with. Okay, so let us just ignore this 1 for now, and let us just consider that I have minus x square divided by 3 times 2 multiplied to the x if I want to get the second term. So let us now generalize it a little bit further. Let us just see. So x here is basically my first term. Okay, it is called the rule of recursion. So x is the first term times minus x square, and below what do I have? Say if n, a particular counter, is at 1, then I can write 3 as 2n plus 1 and 2 as 2n. Okay, if I consider this kind of a structure, then can I get the third term from the second term, considering this same recursive relation? Okay, considering this same recursive relation, can I get the third term from the second term? Let us see. So the third term is x to the power 5 by 5 factorial. Again, this minus sign is gone now, right? So I have a minus sign in my recursive multiplication term, so that minus minus has become plus. Okay, so let us consider the same logic that I have figured out. So this is the trick, this is the catch of any series solution, that you have to figure out that how can I get the second term from the first term, or the third term from the second term, and the fourth term from the third term, with something multiplying something similar, some same expression to the term. So let us see, here I had already x cubed by 3 factorial with a negative sign. Okay, let us what is left then? Inside x to the power 5 by factorial 5, I have minus x square. So minus, already had 3 factorial, so 3 2 1 that I have to multiply 5 and 4 with that to get 5 factorial. Okay, so rest of it is done. 3 2 1 was there, I have to multiply 5 and 4. Okay, so let me write this this expression in a more generalized recursive formula. So then this is basically my second term times minus x square by again 2n into 2n plus 1 if n is equal to 2. Okay, if n is equal to 2, then 2n plus 1 gives me 5 and 2n gives me 4. So the trick for any series solution is that you have to figure out this recursive relation in terms of one of these counters of your loop. Okay, so you have to take a counter and you have to update it at each and every step, and in terms of that counter you can, or some other number which you update in each and every step, you have to figure out a general rule that simply means that if I multiply minus x square by 2n into 2n plus 1 with each of these terms, I basically get the next term. If my n is 0 in the first term, 1 in the second term, in the third term it is 2, and so on. Okay, if I update my n in this way, then multiplying a term like minus x square by 2n into 2n plus 1 gives me the next term. Okay, so this is the key to understanding how to solve any series problem. So try out cosine series or exponential series or log x series and try to figure out this recursive part. Okay, what do I want to, what is common, what is the common factor that I need to multiply? Okay, is it clear? Is the rule clear that how we get the terms one by one by multiplying something like minus x square by 2n into 2n plus 1, where n gets updated at each step? Okay, so if I understand this, then the rest is just writing this in terms of your coding language. Okay, interpreting this in terms of your coding language. So what do I have to do here? Some more things I have to keep in mind. Let me just guide you through these things. The first thing that I have to keep in mind is that I have to convert my x. If it is not in radians, I have to take my x into radians. Otherwise, my series will not work. Okay, so I have to be cautious for that. If I want to find, I want the user to give the input of x in degrees, then I need to convert it into radian, or I have to ask the user or put the value in radian only. Okay, so just for using that, I have imported math, and from math I have borrowed pi, and from there I figured out the converted in radian value of x. So you can directly take inputs from radian, that is also okay, but importing pi from math is a good idea, because then you have the exact value of pi imported from math. Okay, so I have imported math module, then math.pi gives me the value of pi. With using that, you can either write the value of x in radian, or you convert the degrees in radian, whatever you do. Okay, then I have to initiate some terms. What are the terms that it is a series, right? We already know it is a series, so it is going to be a sum, and if I have a sum, we initiate it at 0. So this is the thumb rule. So I have to initiate my sum at 0. Then each of these terms I have to update at each and every step. Okay, so let me start with x, because the first term is x. So this value, whatever I have here, I will just store that in another variable and name it as term or something like that, the new term that I'm going to add. And let me initiate some n. Okay, that n is going to be 1 to begin with. Now I start my loop, and inside the loop, what I do is that I go on adding these terms one by one to the sum, and I update each time after I add, I update term by term times the factor that I just figured out, minus x square by 2n into 2n minus 1 or 2n plus 1, depending upon you start with n equal to 0 or n equal to 1. Okay, so if you start with n equal to 0, then you are going to write 2n plus 1. If you start with n equal to 1, you are going to write 2n minus 1, same thing, no problem. Okay, so you have to figure out the recursive relation, that is the key. Now at each and every step, what I will also do is that I will check if this term that I am newly calculating, the new term, is less than or greater than the decimal places that I have asked, like 4 decimal places or 3rd decimal places. Here comes the if condition. So use your if condition cleverly here to see that if the new term is smaller than this, if it is smaller than this, then that will just increment the previous sum by a smaller number, right? So 4 decimal place, there will be no change. If the term is something, the new term is something where the change is only occurring in the 5th decimal place, the term is very small, then you don't need to add that, because the accuracy we need is right up to 4 decimal places. Okay, so here you have to use your if condition to check if the tolerance that is given in the question has been achieved or not. Then you come out of the loop, break the loop, come out of the loop, and print the value of sum that you found. Okay, so this is more or less the strategy that you need to follow. So try to write the code and just each and every step, just go, just look through it once and ask me if you have any doubts about how to implement that. Do you understand each and every step? Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so try it out. Okay, so try it out, and if you face any trouble, just send me your code. I will have a look. If you have any trouble implementing this. Okay, so this was one question. The next question, Colette's series. Anyone tried that? So the other question was Colette sequence, and it was actually a much more simpler question. So this basically told you that you have to print a series which is defined by a particular rule. That if you have an even number, you have to print n by 2, that is half of it, that number. And if you have an odd number, you have to multiply that by 3, add 1, and then print that number. So this sequence is always, the conjecture is that if you start with any number, you are always going to end up at 1. Okay, that is the conjecture. So the question was just to verify that. So start with an even or an odd number, and you have to follow this simple rule that if it is even, you divide it by 2. If it is odd, you multiply it by 3 and add 1, and you print that number. With that second number that you got, you again do the same thing, again do the same process, and you go on. So let us see. So how to do it? Here the code is much more simpler. Here you just need one loop, and inside the loop you repetitively do this. So you take the input of n, you put some value of n. So before the loop you assign n to an even or odd number of your choice. Let us consider that I have started with 5. Okay, let us consider that I have inputted m as 5. So my input as n is 5. Now I start a loop where each and every step I follow this rule that if n is divisible by 2, that is, it is an even number, I print n by 2, or I print n times 3 plus 1. Okay, 3n plus 1. Okay, I print that. In the next step, I have already updated my n, right? I have stored this new value n by 2 or 3n plus 1 as a variable of n only. Again, I will do the same thing and I will print the next number. So let us see what happens. So I start with 5. 5 is an odd number, so I am supposed to print 3n plus 1. So 3n plus 1 means 15 plus 1, so 16. That is your next number that comes. 16, it is an odd number or even number? Even, right? So now I get to n by 2, so I have printed 8. Okay, 8 is again even, so I have printed 4. 4 is again even, so I have printed 2. 2 is again even, I have printed 1. Okay, so the conjecture is whatever you do, you will always end up at 1 from whichever number you start. It could be a large number, a small number. From whichever number you start, you are always going to end up at 1. That is the conjecture. So question was just to verify that. You start with an even or odd number and see if the last number is coming out as 1 or not. Okay, so try to implement this. This was a much simpler question, so to say. So just try to implement that. Start with a number of your choice, implement the loop, and print them sequentially to see if you can achieve 1 at last. Okay, so this was the second question of Colette sequence. I guess these two problems were now resolved, right? We can move on to something new now. So let us start our new chapter. Today I am going to, now I am assuming that you are all experts of logics like if statements and also for loop. Okay, so today we will start something. Yes,
ma'am. The prime number problem and the Armstrong number problem, I tried it out, but it's showing some kind of error. With
you send me the codes. Okay, that is the best way. If you are stuck, you just send me the codes written in a notepad. You send me the codes. I will edit it. I will check it out and I will let you know. Okay. So the prime number and the Armstrong number, no, you send me, no problem.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is good to practice and try different codes out. And if you are facing some problem, you have to constantly let me know, because in this class usually we have some interactive sessions in the lab which we are missing right now. So I am trusting on you that you will try on your own and let me know. Okay, so try that out and let me know if you are facing any trouble. So today we are going to start metric manipulations. I am going to take it really slowly. So in this chapter we will use our knowledge about for loops, lists, and if-else conditional statements together to actually solve some mathematical problems. Okay, what kind of mathematical problems? We'll start with something very simple like addition of two matrices. Okay, then we will do matrix multiplication. Then we will do transpose of matrix, matrix inversion, finally matrices eigenvalues, eigenvector finding, and finally solving some linear equations with the matrix method. So basically now gradually we are entering the segment where we are going to use Python only as a tool, and the most important part from this point onward is going to be figuring out the algorithms, that how to solve this problem. Okay, so these platforms that we have, MATLAB, Mathematica, Python, with their all packages and modules are there to help us, but the point of this course is to develop a thinking inside you that how you can design the logics of any operation that you want to perform. So in each of these steps, though there are some commands available to straight ahead do this in one line, we will try to think the logics first. We'll write the code simply as if we are writing in C or Fortran, where we don't have any package. We have to write the entire thing on your own, and then I'll show you the trick that how you can do it in one line to check your answer. Okay, so each of these problems I am going to solve in that way only, where we will solve the same problem twice. Once where we will go through the entire algorithm if we are writing in a very basic language like Fortran or C, how we are going to write the code. That is the first thing we'll do. Using Python only we will do. And the next step, we will use some toolbox from some Python, and we will solve the problem in a simpler fashion to check if our answers are correct or not. Okay. So we'll start by something very simple today, that is addition of two matrices. So we'll solve the same problem in different ways in today's class. That is the only thing we're going to do today. Okay. So addition of two matrices. So how do we add two matrices? Suppose I have two matrices. What are the conditions that is needed to be satisfied if I can add them successfully? If I have two matrices, when can they be added? The matrices have to be of same size, right? Order. Same order, right? So the number of rows and columns have to be equal. They have to be of same size. Okay. So if I have a matrix like that, then addition is basically element-wise operation. So you take the first element from the first matrix and the second element from the first element from the second matrix, and you add them, and that is the first element of your summation matrix. Okay. So simply speaking, that if you have an ijth element of the matrix added to the same ijth element of another matrix, okay, to obtain the same ijth element of the new matrix. So Cij is equal to Aij plus Bij if A and B are your input matrices and C is your output matrix. Okay. So simply speaking, this line that is written here is basically the key, and this kind of a line you have to figure out to write codes with matrices. Okay, how the Cij, the output matrix, whatever is expected. In this case, this is addition. In some cases, this could be multiplication or transpose or something like that. So a particular ijth element, ith row, jth column element of the output matrix, how that can be written in terms of other elements of that input matrices that we have. Okay, so this kind of a line is essential for figuring out any problems related to matrices. So here we have seen that it is quite simple, that Cij, C11, the first element is A11 plus B11. C12 is going to be A12 plus B12. So just we have to sum it up. How can I write the code? So let us just take the very simple route to understand the algorithm. So the algorithm is that I will take the input for two matrices in form of lists. Okay. So lists we have handled before, so we know we can take matrices in form of lists, and I will tell you that how specially we can write matrices in form of lists. And then I have to traverse through all the rows and columns. So if I have a matrix which is 3 cross 3, then I have to traverse through all its rows and all its columns one by one. Okay, so I have to go in this direction once, and I have to go in this direction also, right? So two loops will be necessary. First, to go in this direction, change I of your indices, and then change J of your indices, right? So one by one, you have to do use 2 loops to traverse through the entire matrix. Each element you have to go, each element you have to reach once, and then you have to do the corresponding operation, which is summation here. So you will reach a particular element and then you will just sum it up. Okay. So let us see how can I write.
Ma'am, we cannot listen to you.
Hello, hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I dropped off the call due to net connection. How far have you heard the example with the matrix A? We are discussing that.
Algorithm part.
This up to this, right? Up to this you have heard. Okay. So we take 2 matrices in form of lists, and then we traverse through the rows and columns. Okay, so the rows and columns, I have to traverse through the rows and columns of the matrix, and we have to. Yes.
Your slide not visible.
My slide is not visible. Let me just share it again. Now is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you understood the algorithm, that how I have to use 2 loops to go for each rows and each columns?
Yes, ma'am.
Up to that part. Okay. So I have to use 2 loops, and that is specifically true for any matrix manipulation, right? Because I have to travel through the rows and I have to travel through the columns. So columns I travel in this direction and rows I travel in this direction. Thus I always need 2 loops. Okay. So now let us see that how matrices are represented in form of lists in Python. So take this matrix for example. Let us say that A is a matrix. How am I going to write it? So if I have a matrix where 9 is the first element, then I have 7 here and 3 here. Below that I have 4, 5 and 6. Below that I have 7, 8 and 9. Okay, if that is the structure of the matrix, then this is how I represent them. So let us see. Here I have a list inside list. Okay, so that is called a nested list. So we know that a third bracket always points out to a list, right? If I define a list, I put them inside a third bracket. Here you have a list defined by this particular set of third bracket, the one which I am starting and the one with which I am ending, where each of these elements, this one, and this one, are again some lists. Okay, so each of these elements of the matrix A are basically also lists. So in this case, if I write A0, that is what is the 0th element of this matrix, then it will give me this entire list as the 0th element of the matrix. So do we understand this? This is the concept of nested lists. Okay, so we define matrix as a nested list. Okay, so where one list has each of elements are also again some small lists. Okay, so here the element of the matrix A 0 is basically 9, 7, 3. This entire thing is basically the 0th element of this particular matrix. Now, how do I reach this particular number 9, which is the first element? Then I have to write A0, 0. Okay, so that means that you take A, then you take the first element of A, then again you take the first element of A. Okay, so A00 will give me 9. So this is very important. This is, with this idea, we can basically make many codes much shorter. Okay, so A00 will give me 9, A01 will give me 7, and so on. Okay, so this is the way of representing my matrices in form of nested lists, where you have separate third brackets for each element. Okay, so if I don't write this separate third brackets, I just write 9, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is going to be just a column matrix of these 9 elements. And when you separate them out in smaller brackets, it basically shapes it in form of a 3x3 matrix. Okay, so this is how we define matrix in our Python. So let us now see that how we can add two such matrices. So matrix addition. Let us just see step by step that how I can add these two matrices. The first step will be defining it, right? So I define a matrix A and I define a matrix B. So A is equal to, then you just write them comma separated, third bracket separated. Okay, so each of your I have written it, I have given line breaks here just to make sure that what is the structure of the matrix, but you can write them in the same line as well. You can write the entire thing in the same line. If you have put the brackets correctly, then your matrix is okay. Okay, you don't have to give line breaks, that is not compulsory. This I have just given so that you can understand the shape of the matrix. So the matrix is 9, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But you can also write them in the same line like the previous slide. Okay, that also makes the same matrix. Similarly, I define another matrix B. Now I had to add these two matrices. So what do? The very first way we are going to do this is the simplest way, which the algorithm which will work even for C or Fortran. In that, I am going to define a third matrix C where are 0. So this is called the initialization, just like we did for sum and multiplication and all. Here I basically allocate a space where I am going to store my summation. So I initiate the summed matrix with each of the elements initiating at 0. Okay, so this is the next step that I do after defining these two matrices. Okay, so this C is going to be my result. This C is going to be where I am going to sum these two matrices and store that in each of these boxes. So in the next step, after defining C, after defining initializing C, I that will do my summation. Let us be very careful and follow these loops. Okay, so I have written here for I in range of length A. Okay, what is length of A? So A is a matrix that looks like this. Okay, what is the length of A? Is it 9? Is it 3? What is the length of A?
3.
3. Very good. Because A has only 3 elements. Okay. Which 3 elements? One element is 973, this entire list. Another element is 456, this entire list. The third element is 789, this entire list. So the length of A is 3. Okay. So basically this first line tells you that how many rows are there in my matrix. Okay, so length of A basically gives you how many rows are there. These many that is the length of A, that those many rows you have. Okay, so this is the number of rows. So I write that for I in range length A, then I start the loop. Okay, I put the tab and then I write for J in range length of A0. Okay, so A0 is the smaller list sitting inside as the first element of the system, right? So I take the length of that particular list. So A0 here is 973, and what is that? That element's that particular list's length 1, 2, 3. It's also 3, right? So this makes you travel in this direction. This makes you travel along the columns. So this is kind of a general thing that we do. These 2 lines, you convince yourself with these 2 lines. The first one makes you travel through the rows. The second one makes you travel through the columns, so that you can one by one reach each and every element. Okay, first one will be length of A, second one will be length of A0. Now I am assuming that A and B have same dimension, otherwise you cannot sum them up. Okay, so if you want to check that, you can also add some if condition here, and you can also print a statement and check if length of A is equal to length of B and length of A0 is equal to length of B0 to make sure that they are of same dimension. If they are not, you can print the statement that these 2 matrices could not be summed. Something like that also you can do. Okay, so that I am not doing here. With that you can do. That is always there. You can always check once that if these matrices are compatible for summation. In the next step, I just add them. Okay, so by traversing through I and by traversing through J, I have reached one particular element at each point. So for I is equal to 1, J is equal to 1, this will be C1, 1. For I is equal to 1, J is equal to 2, it will be C1, 2, and so on. Okay, so J will run 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and I will run 3 times. In total, I will travel through all the 9 elements and I will then sum them up. This is the statement for summation. Cij, I in third bracket, J in third bracket, specifying that I am mentioning one particular element of my matrix is equal to Aij plus Bij. Okay, so the summation is done. Next part is printing. So once the summation is done, I come out of the loop. Okay, you can see that I have come out of both the indentations, and then I print the matrix C. So how do I print the matrix C? I write that the summation or matrix C or whatever you want to write. Okay, the summation of the 2 matrices, that statement is up to you. Inside quotations, whatever you write, that is up to you. You can write that. And how do I print? So let us just carefully look through this, how to print a matrix. For K in C, print K. Just that. For K in C, print K, will go and print all the elements sitting inside C, which are now updated, which are not 0 anymore, and you have updated each and every element. Okay, so these steps that we have followed is in detailed mention of each and every step that you need to do to add 2 matrices and how to do that. Okay, any doubts? Clear? Up to this point is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
So now let us just quickly see that how can I check if my summation is correct using some packages having them inside inside Python. Okay, so the point of this course is designing algorithms, right? So that is why we have written the code in detail step by step, but we can also check them because we have these packages in handy. So let us use a package which is going to be very helpful for us in coming days, and that is called NumPy. Just like math, this is another package which you can import and you can use. So inside this, you can actually do these operations in one step. Okay, so let me just show you that how to import that. Import NumPy. You write that, and NumPy will be with you, just like math, just like the other models that you have imported. just like that. So if you want to shorten the name, you can write import numpy as np, and from next step onwards, you can write the commands belonging to this particular package as np dot that command instead of writing numpy dot that command. Okay, just like you wrote math dot square root, something like that, here you will write np dot and borrow a command from the numpy package. So if I want to use numpy for calculating this this same operation, the addition operation, we use them as numpy arrays. Okay, so inside numpy we call them arrays instead, and to call an array we will write np dot array, and we write the name of the array. That is how we call the array in numpy. So in one step you can do this entire problem in numpy. How? So these are the steps: addition of two matrices using numpy. Okay, so you import numpy as np. You can import with any name you prefer. Okay, so np is a common conventional name that is generally used, so I have used that. Then you define a as an np array. Okay, you don't define it as a list, but you define it as an np array. How to define that? Np dot array and first brackets. Very careful about this. First brackets. Inside the first bracket, you write the entire list. The format of the list that we are using till now, you write the entire list. Similarly, you define b as np dot array, and again first brackets. Inside first brackets, you write the entire list as b. And next step is just one step. C is equal to a plus b. This does the entire operation for you. Directly sums up element wise each and every term. You print in the same way for k in or for r in range C. You just print r, and it prints the matrix, the entire matrix. Okay. So this is borrowing np array from numpy and doing the same operation of addition using a direct command borrowed from numpy. But when we were writing the code in our tests or in our exam, this is not what is expected from you. You are expected to write your codes in a more detailed fashion, where the algorithm becomes very clear, that you understand how the operation is going on. Okay, so the entire goal is to develop that sense. This is just a special trick that I am giving you just to check your answers out. Okay, so I will stop at this point today. Try out this in your Colab and in your computer, and let me know if everything worked fine. Okay, and we will meet in the next week with some new codes on matrices. Okay, so I'll stop here and see you in the next class, and have a very happy Diwali to all of you with your family and everyone. Stay safe. Happy Diwali. Okay, so let me stop here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.